up. So this is a project I've been working on something similar to this for a long time. Or I suppose I've been working on like digital communication stuff for a long time, either kind of theoretically and trying to understand what are the affordances of digital space as a medium to, I suppose, like pro-human and pro-social endeavors, as we are seeing a lot at the moment with the alliance between, the ascendant kind of fascist right and big tech, is that, a lot of like a kind of technological optimism is gone from the left, as maybe it was there, 5-10 years ago. At this point, it kind of seems like just trying to hold on and get through. And there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of kind of proactive vision in that regard. So whilst a lot of people have maybe theorized more traditional political forms vis-a-vis like the Soviet or the Affinity Group or the People's Council, me and my own work, and then as a part of a larger collective, felt that it was necessary to actually theorize forms such as like the group chat, which is, I suppose, what a lot of modern political work kind of takes place around, and to see what could be built into that would make that kind of process more easier. So this, of course, comes from like the consensus tradition of activism, whereby every member of a group has the ability to veto or say no, or to have that kind of emphasis on discourse, that you don't necessarily have like one leader making decisions, rather it's a kind of a horizontalist structure, and to have kind of decision making measures that help facilitate that. So if we're looking right now at like kind of the basic motif of kind of what I'm talking to you about, and I'll just kind of run through this very quickly. So this first screen is just your standard kind of phone chat screen, and the idea is that someone puts a proposal in. Now, a proposal could be kind of a concrete suggestion about what to do in the near future about something, or it could be some kind of value and say, okay, well, we as a group hold this value, or kind of whatever. The idea is then that someone can then tap and hold on that particular proposal, and it'll bring them up to a consent screen, which can register their particular consent, either by a yes-no binary of thumbs up, thumbs down, green, red, or by the degree, by this kind of numbering and this like gradient system, whereby number 1 is like very enthusiastic consent. Number 10 is like very enthusiastic, I don't want to do this, no. And then, of course, the question mark puts it back into the initial chat, we're just saying that there isn't enough information. Whatever vote is then cast, it then brings you on to our third screen, which tallies up the original proposal, what was voted, and then why. So this is a text box that you must then input your reason as to why you either did or did not consent to this specific proposal. This, moving on, now this is a kind of an abstract structure that I have from a lot of my previous kind of comms work, which I call the project argument structure, but that's nomenclature that's very idiosyncratic to me. What it means though is it's just that all proposals then get qualified by their degree of consent, as well as the reason. And the idea is that then this is easily sourceable to the people in the chat, and that this instigates kind of a feedback loop whereby proposals can be generated that become more and more in line with the consensus of the group.
Yes.
So that's kind of that's it in one.
I would certainly make a lot of decisions easier, rather than having many WhatsApp messages. This actually gives it a structure, and we will actually, with aontacht Media, will be looking at adopting this software once it's out. So very exciting developments.
That's really cool, and I appreciate the vote of support. We still have a lot more kind of development to go through, and we definitely need all the help we can get. But now that we have this kind of like basic idea understood, we can kind of scroll down and we can kind of start building on it, and you can see kind of where some of the complexity comes. So this screen is more or less the same as the one that was mentioned before. The only thing is, at the end, instead of the abstract structure of the project argument structure, you have this screen whereby you've got the proposal on top, proposal A. You've got people's reasons for why they consented or why they did not consent. Now, and so it's like stratiated. And this is kind of an early material. This is like more developed later on, but it's basically just this basic idea of that the proposals that have consent should be prioritized over proposals that don't have consent. And that of the proposals that have consent, those that have more enthusiastic consent should be prioritized. So that's just kind of what this is getting across. But this is a little bit murky. It gets a little bit sharper in the later materials. Now, if you'll scroll down again, you get to where some of the complexity is coming in. So presuming message A, some people have like voted on it. Then you need to be able to tap or hold and get this screen as well, which is the screen of what the message is, what people said about it, whether they consented or didn't consent, so like color coding. And so this color is on the outside of the message rather than the inside to show that it's a judgment pertaining to a other message rather than something intrinsic to itself. Does this kind of make sense?
So people can vote on messages to make them into proposals, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's smart. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. And but people can then respond in the same way to other people's responses.
So it creates creates a little sub division there.
Yes. It's like a chain.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah, cool. So this is kind of like the UI necessary to be able to pull this out. Now, these are like the abstract forms. So going from the abstract form to any kind of implementation requires, as I'm finding, to be a certain degree of complexity.
And how can people get involved with this project, by the way, if they have any technological skills and coding skills?
Fab. Yeah, no, we absolutely need technological skills. We need coding skills. We kind of need anyone who's technical and also another designer or two. Maybe people who are better at like UI and UX than I am. Because as you'll see very shortly, I'm good at like moving the conceptual stuff down, given enough time. But the it's not very pretty. If folks want to get involved, I'll give you the email afterwards, and folks can get in contact that way. I've run 2 workshops on this now, so I'll probably another public workshop sometime soon. So that might be another way to get involved. I'll keep the good people at aontacht Media.
Consensus UX.
Yes, Consensus UX.
Fantastic
name. Okay, cool, fab. All right. Do you want to get into the more complex bit?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Although I will note I will note that if what we're looking for, I cut this out of the recording, but if what we are looking for is a quick introduction to the people who are, watching our social media videos, then the more complex you get, the less likely people are gonna be involved. What you would want to do, or how you would want to frame it, is a short introduction like you did now, and then we'll say homegrown Irish activist software in development or something like that,
Okay, that's so cool. Okay, so how's about we chop that up, that bit at the front, we chop that up, okay, and that can go as the short bit. But then the good people who are listening to us right now, because we haven't edited this bit out in the end, we decided not to, who are now listening, can get this in a more kind of, I say more developed. It's not quite there yet, but maybe a more developed kind of state of the art kind of discussion. But yeah, that's cool.
So are we stopping the recording here? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm being silly.
Well, the thing it's just our readers are not gonna be technical. The people who watch this video are probably gonna get freaked out with a lot of these diagrams. So I'm just thinking, if you want to continue the recording, we'll cut it in 2, and whoever is interested can get the whole recording.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, yeah, that's grand. All right. I mean, we could like talk a little bit about like what the political significance of this, or
Yeah,
if you want to give some
yeah,
critique to consensus or something is. Yeah.
yeah. Do that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Um, so like, I don't know. I'm not super good to just go jump off in the significance. Like, what do you think the significance of a project like this would be?
Well, it would be the fact that we are moving away from software that's developed and hosted by big multinational companies, who can spy, monitor, withdraw their services at any time. And we are moving towards, activists and leftists are moving towards a system of self-reliance where we develop our own tools, our own communication methods, and therefore making our movement much more robust and resistant to state infiltration or censorship by big companies.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with certain elements of this. I've kind of come to the realization where I'm like, I don't want to build like leftist social media or like revolutionary social media, because actually that's a contradiction in terms. Because the more I read about it, the more I see it, is I'm like, oh, these social media platforms, their digital architecture is shaped by the fact that they're businesses.
Yeah.
To the point where like trying to do, and people have done like with like Mastodon, they've like done like versions of it that are like not for profit, but because it uses a similar model of and similar architecture, then it opens itself up to being captured by for-profit entities that want your data. I'm thinking of like Threads specifically with the Mastodon example, whereby instances that federate with it, even if the specific instances aren't like harvesting your data, Threads sure as fuck is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so now you've opened up this data flow because you've just kind of repeated the same social media digital architecture, which also comes with the same set of like digital media social expectations.
I suppose that's correct. I mean, you could also say that like politically this is a proposal which would make our groups more democratic, more horizontal, more decentralized, ensuring that there can be no sort of try to keep informal hierarchies at bay, or even formal hierarchies at bay, by having just membership input at every step of the way, right? So I think that's also very positive.
I think it could definitely be useful. I think like technology alone is not enough. Like for any like progressive group, even if you have like this kind of architecture, it still takes it's a socio-technical practice, to use a bullshitty word, of kind of ensuring participation. But it's like I think the trick is, when building in with here, trying not to do anything that would stop or the affordance of that kind of socio-technical practice. Like, we can get into the more complicated bits, but there was a bit where I was considering adding in like vote counting for some specific issues where I need a decision either way, and it can't just be ambiguous. And if like the decision was like programming stuff in the machine, and so I considered like vote counting, like, oh, we just go with like a super majority or whatever. But when you start instituting systems like that, then you now lock it so that it would be like one vote on something per user, because you would have to if you're vote counting, which then means that people can't share phones. So now you've hurt accessibility by trying to input that kind of a system.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a lot of this is trying to take what consensus is at its best, and trying to highlight those features rather than by like playing to its weaknesses.
Yes, I'm looking at some of the other screenshots or mock-ups that you have, and I really like the way it's coloring the messages green, like the very good examples here.
Yeah,
it's certainly very, very useful if implemented. Yeah.
So right now, what you're looking at is Is this missing a bit? It is. Give me a second. Do. Okay, this is missing a bit at the moment, but I'll just kind of throw. Okay. Whatever about formatting. The idea of like the soft locking bit is that, you know, when members are soft locked, they have a little pop-up screen which is currently gone behind the yoke, but I'll fuck around with the layers later on. So this is basically what I would have instead of vote counting. For like very specific instances where that is necessary. So for instance, in terms of like getting rid of a member, so like the way you get on the network is described in getting on the network as well as group membership. So we're maybe jumping ahead a little bit on that, but this is related to like kicking someone off the network, where if someone put a dissenting judgment on your account and they say, I don't think you should be part of the organization anymore for whatever specific reason, then this kind of a judgment would soft lock both of you, so that both the person who's been judged against and the other person are not able to do anything else until the situation resolves.
Yes.
So in this specific instance, the situation can resolve if you go out of the yellow up to the right. How chain messages affect green score, red score. So we haven't gotten into green score, red score, but it's just the different ways that the chats or the messages are like prioritized. With this, it would resolve when the red score is 0 again. So in this case, someone puts up a dissenting judgment on your account. You disagree with them, so they put a red score on you. You put a red score on their red score in the chain, and they in the same chain put a green score on the red score on the original dissenting message, which indicates that they agree with the dissenting judgment, and then the red score is reduced to plus 0. So in this specific instance, what that would do is then that would resolve the soft lock as the initial proposal has kind of been pushed down.
Yes, and I also saw somewhere that the introduction of a new member requires someone to vouch for them.
Yeah, so let's go to the getting on the network section at the beginning. This is in the light blue.
Yep.
You see it?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Okay, cool. So this first page is kind of like a very rough mock-up of what a web page will be like. It's where you download it, but then also I think where some of the news or details or things that have been like decided by Consensus UX about Consensus UX could be publicized in kind of a front-facing manner. But let's say you go, download newest version, downloads the app, yada yada, moves you onto a login screen. So you can log in with a secret username, so this is not displayed to any other member when you make a new account.
And someone inside the group then has to scan your QR code. That's smart, very smart.
Yeah, so you join an existing group. When you go to join an existing group, you make a very specific profile for that group. So profiles are not between groups, just, for the sake of security stuff. Rather, you can have a different kind of profile in every specific one. To join a group, you generate a QR code which indicates your specific account, and then someone who is already in that group would have to scan yours. And when they do, they would vouch for you, which means it's the same kind of consent screen. It said, I consent, I don't consent. They do consent, why? And then this is your vouch. It's basically someone has like consented to have you on the network.
Yeah.
At the same time, what you see as a new potential user is their list of principles, which is a specific output chat. We'll get to output chats and input chats in a minute. That is all the values that people have decided to share in this way. And so once you have the appropriate number of scans to join the group, which is set by every particular group, it will move you on to the basic page, where you see the specific group title.
Very good. And so what are output pages?
Right. Okay. So we're coming to that now. So right now you have inside the group, in this case, the Consensus UX working group, you have every chat has an input and an output. So like we said earlier, you have your standard chat, which is your input chat, where, people just talk and write. And your output chat, which is displayed below that, is a display of all the proposals in stratiated order of how much consent they have.
Right, so this means that the output is visible to other groups as well.
It can be.
So, right, and the other groups can then come in and help, perhaps, with whatever is being requested or being put out there.
Yeah. So if, for instance, maybe with aontacht Media, if there were a number of small community groups who wouldn't necessarily have the need to publish all the time or be super involved, but they would maybe want like an information flow that if they needed something published or they had something to say, that this could be easily done by consensus of the group. And so they could have a specific chat that outputted to, let's say, aontacht Media.
And that's very good because it allows groups to connect with each other as well. And
yes.
I just see that with the federation part of the graph, which essentially allows people to see each other's needs and establish communication between them. I mean, the left is so, split and disorganized. This will certainly help collaborations between different groups. So.
Yeah, ideally, and from like a designer, there's kind of, if you look at kind of how federation works, it's much the same as getting on the network. Because if you've asked someone to learn one set of digital architecture, it's silly to use something else. Rather, it's like, okay, once I've gotten on the network, you kind of know how it works.
Yeah.
So trying to like reuse that, so that it's intuitive is kind of the thinking on this at the moment. And so on this, there's, either community group can scan the other community group's specific QR code in order to try and federate, and then they can see each other's kind of principles and see if that agrees or disagrees with them. And from there, both members can make kind of a mutual vouch for the other group to say that, okay, maybe we should have some kind of relationship with this group, which is what, once that has a requisite number of vouchers, establishes the specific group. And then from there, folks can create a new chat in much the same way they would create a chat, domestically in their own group, of what should be shared between the groups. So whether it's like an input-output, whether it's, if you see the rules/needs for use of the space, in the... Do you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. If you see the rules/needs for use of the space, the input is indicated as like an I cross, so that's not being shared. So that's only for use by the Consensus UX group, so only they can kind of see that. But the output is visible to both groups.
Yes.
And so it's that kind of idea of what you're saying earlier is like, okay, it's, and trying to make that clear visually with badges of what information is flowing between these different groups to make that kind of easier to have established kind of bespoke communication flows between different kind of community groups.
Yes.
So yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's very revolutionary. It's very good.
Okay.
So we covered pretty much everything.
We've run through it. Now there's probably more to say and maybe more detail to go into, but I think that's pretty much the core stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a bit of a weird project. I do think there's a lot of potential in it, and I think that this is also a way for maybe people who wouldn't have maybe super traditional outlets for activism that would be good for them, that maybe there's some way that they can kind of get involved. So maybe, just having more options for things that people want to do. But yeah, we've got a little group going, and it's going pretty well. We're meeting kind of infrequently at the moment, but yeah, we can absolutely use any help we can get, and any kind of questions or comments. I will absolutely go through and kind of try and respond to, because it's very important to try and get feedback.
The project is called Consensus UX, and you can email them to get involved. They're looking for techies and coders and anyone who has a bit of knowledge with technology who can help them out. We'll